Ooh, she came out cute though, huh? She cute. Oh, don't see my background. Hola, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pedo? What's up? And what's the cheese? Yo soy Chichi Fuera, and welcome to Chichi's Chisme. Chichi's Chisme is a place I created where we can get real chingona and chismear about life and important moments in latinX and Chicano history. Antes que comenzamos, quiero decir a todos que están mirando el video ahorita, pinches chismosas, muchas gracias porque regresaron. La verdad, en serio, güey, muchas gracias. Like, honestly, thank you to you guys. I was nervous putting this out there. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, so I'm still learning.
¿Qué dice?
Nicki Minaj.
I originally wanted to do, like, Chisme Mondays because I was really inspired by Bailey Syracuse. With what she's got going on. If you know her, you know her. Si no lo conoces, entonces puedes buscarlo acá, search, acá arriba. Ahí está. Then I realized, wait, es mucho trabajo para hacer un pinche video about YouTube. Like, what the, like, it's a lot of fucking work. So, voy a subirlos cuando me da la gana. Mira, ya sé que hablo bien pocho cuando hablo en español. Pero no es mi culpa. La cosa es, tengo la nopal enfrente. So with that being said, let's talk about today's look. El look, güey. La inspiración del look de hoy is Julie Boleyn. She is a tattoo artist here in California. She created this like flash tattoo art painting that was really, really beautiful. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, wait. And then I was just like, how in the fuck am I gonna do this hair? So that was the struggle. We kind of got it. You'll see that later. So for this video, I thought it'd be really cute to pay like homage to la nopal enfrente porque soy bien pocho and shit. But I know that we're living in a crazy time right now, to be honest. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of debates. But one thing that I keep hearing is, go back to your land. No, go back to your land. So in this episode, si quieres saber cómo México convirtió México, vamos a chismear. So when we get right into Mexico and we get into its history, it's very complicated. There's a lot going on, from its pop culture, its art, its history, its government, its civil rights. It's so much going on. So to basically sum up the history of Mexico, y para comenzar con esta historia, we're gonna have to start at El Caído, the collapse of the Toltec Mayan Empire, who were one of the most intelligent indigenous people there. They were one of the few to actually build entire cities, be fully functional with bibliotecas, tenían tiendas, tenían escuelas. Like, they had everything already ready and set. Ya estaban listos, you know what I mean? Entonces, after that fall, ya pasó como 200 años y aquí estamos con el Mexican tribe when they settled right en el medio de Texcoco Lake, or the Lake Texcoco. You get the picture. They came over here to basically fulfill en otro mercado, ¿no? Dramático. El prophecy era que si ellos encontraron un higo encima de una cactus comiendo una serpiente, then that's where they were gonna live. They were basically randonauting. Y en ese tiempo es cuando comenzaron el ciudad de Tenochtitlan. So now, once they built the city got together with its nearest allies and formed the Aztec Empire. Shortly after becoming the Aztec Empire, they began to become large and in charge and swiftly take over from coast to coast. Entonces, en este momento todo iba muy, muy perfecto. Pero como una chismosa llegó la robalonche española. Un vato que se llama Hernán Cortés. In 1519, he came across to Mexico con 500 conquistadores. So basically, after the robalonches se llegaron, and they basically wanted to take over the Aztec Empire, they teamed up with all the enemies that the Aztec Empire had.
And that means Team 3 is Shea Coulee and Alexis Mateo. Oh, Oh,
and they wanted to join the conquistadors that Hernan Cortez brought, and they wanted to take over. So they eventually eradicated the Aztec Empire. So basically, cuando ya tiraron sus chingazos, Spain took over. So they fought, but don't think they like killed everyone, because smallpox llegó y güey, chigaron a todos, güey. So basically, cuando ya ganaron los pinches robalonches, what ended up happening was, step one, get rid of Hernan Cortez, porque ese güey era bien loco. So Charles, the King of Spain, went ahead and tried to get him to come back, but he was all like, nah, chill, dog, chill, dog. Charles turned around and was just like, pues, ¿sabes qué, güey? Entonces, you don't get a job. And can you imagine trying to apply for unemployment back then? If it's hard now, bitch. Step two was to create a whole new capital right where Tenochtitlan was. And it would be named right after the old Aztec Empire name of Mexica. Bringing us back to how we got the name Mexico. Since apparently there's a 2-for-1 special everywhere, now Charles was in charge of 2 Spains. He had to show how chingon he was, según él. So, by showing his superiority, he not only did it through monarchy, but he also did it through the caste system, which is a system that basically broke down who you were based on your heritage. So after that monarchy chingadera, he, Senor Charles, went ahead, and not James Charles, okay, because that's been really hard for me not to say. I don't know why. Hermana. So after that came religion. Now see, religion was just, it gets crazy. So now that Spain was in charge, religion came into play. And Spain was heavily influenced by Catholicism. And since the native people had a religion that was very similar to polytheism, which is basically the belief of more than one god, they thought this would be a perfect religion to influence the natives. So after this didn't go too well, Spaniard missionaries took it upon themselves to burn down their architectures. They burned down a lot of their old scriptures, so to them, their religion was no longer existent, and they were forced to believe in Catholicism. Entonces, cuando ya pasó toda la desmadre, there was a few people who tried to stop some of the effects of the colonization that was happening. However, that didn't work out, because basically Spaniards believed that if you weren't up to their par, they're swiping left on your tender ass. Despite all of those complicated situations, the land became a very popular area, creciendo con lugares como Ciudad México, Guadalajara, Veracruz, and Acapulco. So despite the success of them growing, New Spain forgot that the purpose of coming over here to begin was to bring wealth and resources back to Old Spain. So they brought back cocoa, chiles, tomatoes, and corn to the Old Spain. So basically, this was cool for them for a little bit, until se chingaron porque gastaron mucho dinero y no sabían. They just didn't know how to handle their own fucking money. Entonces regresó Spain para atrás a su casa porque su mamá estaba llamando que güey, ya. Entonces ellos fueron, pero México quedó con el caste system. So, with a lot of influence from the Haitian Revolution and the American Revolution, Mexico decided to give it a go. So now that Spain went back and left Mexico, a Carrillo priest by the name of Miguel Hidalgo took advantage of this. On September 16th of 1810, Miguel Hidalgo gave the cry of Dolores, and this began la independencia. Aunque no ganó, la verdad es, era un poquito complicado. This all took a turn in 1820 when they finally had their own ruler and their own new constitution. So later on that year, also during the 1820s, there was a Spanish general by the name of Agustín Iturbide who met up with a revolutionary leader by the name of Vicente Guerrero, who also happened to be the first Afro-Latino president of Mexico. He was technically the second president, but the first Afro-Latino. Estos dos juntaron so they can come up with a new independent government. So despite all the talking, tanto hablando, trying to planear qué pueden hacer, qué pueden cambiar, últimamente nada cambió. As a matter of fact, they fought so hard that General Iturbide was later executed. So it wasn't until a former general by the name of Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna would later on become the president of Mexico. And however, this didn't go that well because he later on let in a lot of American immigrants in the northern part of Mexico. And pues, in the mix of allowing American immigrants come across, there was an overflow. There was a little bit too much, dos muchos, if you know what I mean. And by doing that, he expected all of them to follow Mexican rules. However, since they were all American immigrants, they were not all going to abide by this rule, which then later caused them to become agitated and fight for more rights that they believed they deserved, causing what we call nowadays the Alamo. Which in full hindsight perspective did not look too good for Mr. Santa Anna, because not only did they fight, they also captured him. After capturing him, they went ahead and released him and they let him go. Shortly after is when Texas finally became America. Now, shortly after Texas became America, there was a little bit of a dispute about soldiers being killed on American land, which then led to another war. Shortly after that, the U.S. then started to invade the Pacific coast in California and along the eastern Gulf Coast. Sorry, the Highlander talking. During this invasion, they redirected Santa Anna to Mexico, where they would then force them to surrender. And this is what we would now consider Colorado and California. So after a few defeats, Santa Anna would later be pushed out in 1855. Wait, no chingas. Van a salir de pleito otra vez. So turns out Mexico ended up having another war, and in the mix of that war, Mexico was funded or had to borrow money from other countries, Europe being one of them. So Europe ended up coming back to collect. In the mix of all this, after getting denied, Europe sent Napoleon over to collect in person. So basically, Napoleon came to collect, and when he did, by his surprise, he was greeted by the Mexican army. This is what we would call the Battle of Puebla, also known as Cinco de Mayo. Yes, I know. To all you wetas out there, it's not Cinco de Drinko. There's meaning behind this date, okay, cabronas? France decided to get together. Regresaron de arriba y de abajo de México. So, once that happened and Mexico saw that,
You want another placazo badass? Come and get it, motherfucker!
they just went ahead and decided to drop out of the war. They started spending the next 4 decades trabajando bien duro on Mexico's Congress, Mexico's infrastructure, and Mexico's economy. Ay, Dios mío, sorry, this is hurting me, and then the tongue twister, muchas cosas pasando ahorita. And they also focus on modernizing their army. They're working hard now because too many people be fucking with them. So imagínate, México está limpiando, está mirando bien chilo, están trabajando mucho, y luego que llegue un necio nomás para chingar todo otra vez. In 1880, Mexico elected another general, which at this point, wouldn't you see the pattern? And this man went by the name of Porfirio Diaz. Now this guy was known for rigging the election. I mean, I don't know if you've heard a story like that before. Never. Don't know what that is, right? I know. Weird. So, I mean, obviously he won because he rigged it, so duh. But a lot of people weren't happy with that. And because a lot of people weren't happy with that, they eventually kicked him out.
Okay, fuera!
And that caused another revolution that would last another decade. So after making him flee, this then caused an uproar and a revolution that really didn't go that far because, once again, people didn't come together to agree on what to agree on. My wig was too big. I had to sit on the floor. I'm literally on the floor right now. So, admire it. In conclusion, México está bien complicado con su historia. Now, if you haven't noticed, I didn't go full into detail on every little thing about each moment because we'll wait for that on a later day. So, this is my finished look. I hope you guys like it. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for everyone who continues to support me and a todos que vinieron otra vez. Porque a mí me encanta los chismosas. See you next time. Chao, cabrones.